Hey everybody, DIY Dave here. We've got a big new project. We're going to undertake one of the biggest things I've tried since I've been doing these videos. We're going to be replacing some vinyl sheet goods in our utility room and putting down some nice 12 by 24 porcelain tile. And should be a big adventure. Tried to be as smart as I can on this. Thought we'd bring you along for the ride. Should be quite a project, and I hope you will join us. When we built this house about 1999, we had vinyl sheet goods put in this utility room, and they were not the best quality. They were not put down the best, but unfortunately our builder was in financial trouble at the time we closed, and there was really no way to get him to fix it. So we lived with it. But as you can see, it's torn. It didn't fit at the edges very well. And after 25 years, it's starting to show its age. So what we're going to do is we are going to pull all of this vinyl sheet good out, and we're going to replace it with 12 by 24 porcelain tile all the way in here into this bathroom. Big project, lots of effort. It's going to be no small deal. We've already measured the area, took some fairly detailed measurements. We're going to need a little over 100 square feet of tile. I have already obtained the tile, and we're going to be using some Mapei Thinset for large format tile, 12 by 24 tile, some Mapei grout, and step one, which we've obviously already done, is cleared out all the washer and the dryer. There's a freezer. Gotten rid of all of the stuff that was on here, put it out in the garage. Next step is going to be to pull off all of this base trim board. We're going to remove the trim board. What we're going to be doing first is we're going to take a utility knife and cut the vinyl into different pieces in different sections, and then we're going to use a big scraper just to peel it up. We did something like this on a much smaller scale on another project that I did not video years ago, and hopefully I'm a little smarter about putting tile down now. But the one thing that did prove true is that the vinyl sheet goods in that room were put down with almost nothing adhering to the floor. It came up very straightforward. So let's take a look at what we're going to be putting down. This is 12 by 24 tile that we picked up from Floor and Decor. We got a dedicated paint and mortar mixer. Got that at Harbor Freight on sale for 70 bucks. We've got a margin trowel and a rubber grout float. And we're going to be using the Ruby tile leveling system, which basically consists of 1/8 inch clips, and then the spacers with the tool that puts pressure down to prevent lippage and keep the tiles level. Okay. Step one, before we can do anything else, is we got to get the floor ready. The first thing we're going to do is we got to get rid of these trim strips, these quarter round moldings, and then once we get rid of the quarter round moldings, then we can cut up and get the floor carved up. So we're going to go through here, nothing fancy here. We're going to just take a pry tool, hammer, and start knocking these trim strips loose. Now, I know there's some debate. I've seen competing opinions on whether you should have quarter round on top of your tile or you shouldn't. I've seen arguments on both sides. In the rest of the house where there's tile, there's no quarter round. So I've decided to be consistent with that. And frankly, I don't want to go to the hassle of trying to salvage this once it gets taken up. So we're just going to take it off. And if that's not how you do it, that's great. That's the choice we're going to make. So here we go, knocking out these quarter rounds. Nothing too magic about this. We're just taking this pry tool, knocking these things out, and we have to take these things up anyway to get to the edges where the tile would go anyway. So and pretty much the same thing for the bathroom and the hall, so we'll call that good. And okay, all the cord around is up and removed. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this old floor. Now this old floor, it's too big to try to deal with in one big deal. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the dreaded utility knife here with a nice sharp blade, and we're going to cut this off into sections. And then we'll roll up the sections, which we expect will just roll up. The adhesive is not very adhesive. And then we'll roll this stuff out and stick it in the trash because it's not going anywhere. Now, what we're going to do is, this is a storage area that it's got lots of flotsam and junk in it. We're not going to spend the time tiling it into here, so we're going to cut inside here as our starting point. So this first section we'll do right here, and another kind of a 3 or 4 foot arbitrary section here, and on through the path. So we'll go ahead and do this first section. Probably won't show every section because it'll just be basically repetitious, but that's our objective. We'll just aim it so you can at least, yeah, right about there. That angle's perfect. Okay, so we're going to move this guy, and I'm going to quite arbitrarily use this knife to cut a nice hard line. Trying to feel that I'm getting, with the blade, that I'm getting all the way through the vinyl, all the way to the concrete. Something I did not mention in the earlier video is that our floor here is concrete. This is a slab on grade house, so we're not dealing with a plywood floor or OSB or anything like that. We're straight concrete floor. So that kind of consideration for deflection of surface, or we don't need to use a decoupling membrane or anything like that. Goes. Okay, yeah. When we did a bathroom floor a few years ago that we did not video, the floor there was not down nearly as well as this is, because you could tell there's no adhesive here at all, and there's a pretty decent layering over here. It wasn't that layered down on the other room. This is biting me a lot more than I expected. Okay, for right now, this is nothing more than scraping and elbow grease. There's no marginal value in videoing that, so we'll cut back in when we've got some or all of this taken up, and we'll proceed from there. Floor scraper, essential tool. Back in a little bit. Through the magic of TV, it will be only seconds. Okay, we've been into this about an hour, and it's been much more difficult than we expected. Based on our prior experience, we thought this linoleum would peel up because it was not adhered well in the other bathroom. It's adhered much better here. But we finally got a groove going where if we get underneath the linoleum, we can pick it up and get both layers of the paper up, and all we have is a little bit of the concrete adhesive on the floor. So we've got a pretty good head here. We've got most of this cleaned off and scraped away, and we've got a pretty good cut here, so we're trying to take advantage of the lip that we have where it comes off in one big piece. If you get too much of the top layer, you get just the shiny surface of the linoleum and not that and the paper backing. So we're going to keep back at it, and we'll update you in a little bit of our status. Try to give you guys a timeline of what we're doing. It's 10:30 in the morning. we've been working on this part about an hour, and we're already way behind how long I thought this would take us. So we'll be back with an update in a little bit. Okay, it's about 20 minutes later, and we've had some great success. We finally got into and underneath both layers of the vinyl with much greater success with our big floor scraper, and we got big swaths. We got an area probably twice as big as the entry in one fell swoop. So all we're dealing with here is just the remnant layer of the adhesive between the old vinyl and the concrete. So we've got a big chunk here that I think we can scrape under. Again, the key was getting a good starting point and then taking advantage of the mass of the vinyl coming up and letting it pull both layers up with us. Okay, it's 11:19 a.m. and we finally have removed all of the sheet goods. The bulk, everything peeled out from this bathroom here. It was just more like we expected. It peeled up almost in one piece. We still have a few areas, like right there, we had a little bit of the paper backing that stuck. And we have a few areas of more detailed cleanup that we're going to have to chisel out. That's just elbow grease. But we have all of the floor, well, 99% of the floor out, and all we're doing now is some backfill cleanup work to get rid of the bulk of it. And then we will do a sweeping, and I think what we've decided to do, I've got a small shop vac, this guy right here. Oh, yeah, that guy right there. But I think what we've decided to do is we are going to take a break, and we're going to go up and we're going to get us a full-size big hairy shop vac, because before we put anything down, we've got to get this completely clean, get all the debris and dust and paper out, and get it cleaned up before we start laying out and putting down thinset and tile. So the bulk of the work was done. It definitely took longer than we expected. I figured we'd be laying out tile by now, but we're not there. That's okay. We've taken some time off to do this, so it takes as long as it takes. We're going to try to do it as right as we can, and that's where we are. So don't plan to spend a lot of time showing us just scrape. Just show you the process. We're just taking chisels on that paper, getting underneath the paper, and then when we get a loose area, take a broader chisel, or basically a paint scraper, scrape underneath it, and peel that puppy loose. And there's no shortcut around that short of grease. And one thing that we're definitely trying to avoid is using any kind of liquid solvents or cleaners to get that stuff off. Because when you put liquid on the concrete, then the concrete needs to dry before you put the thinset on it, or it won't bond properly. So definitely wanting to avoid that if at all possible. So that's where we are for now. Probably the next time you see us, in the matter of YouTube seconds, we will be clean and ready to start laying out, hopefully. But you shall see. Stand by. So we have the bulk of the floor out. We took a couple hours break. We were kind of tired, had a snack, got something to drink, and we've regrouped. So we still have a few areas where the thick backer paper or the backer cardboard on the vinyl floor didn't quite come completely off. So rather than try to scrape and scrape and scrape by hand, which is going to take hours, decided to go ahead and go down to Lowe's, and I picked up an 85 grit sanding disc that I can use on my angle grinder. This is just a cheapo angle grinder I got as a free perk from Harbor Freight on a promotional thing. Nothing fancy. 4.5 inch disc, 80 grit. And my intent is to just take those areas that are still stuck to the floor and grind them down, and then we're going to vacuum the dust that's created right up with our shop vac. We got a new shop vac. The one we had is just not suitable for the task. And what we're both going to do, because this is probably going to stir up a lot of dust, we've got a couple of masks we're going to put on there just to be safe. I don't think we're not going to be inundated with it, but it's going to be a dusty process. But hopefully if we can get these big areas that remain knocked down, we'll get this floor ready, and then we'll be in a position to start thinking about laying out tile. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, it's just barely in shot, but I don't have any more room to push the camera back, and I don't think I can pinch it in anymore. But we've got a little paper area there. It's just barely in the shop. This is where we're going to start experimenting with our angle grinder. See if we can get this thick paper debris off. So we're going to put on the old masks. And of course, no project would be complete without Boomer approval. He's our supervisor, and he's very curious about what we're doing. I don't know that we got his approval, so he's checking us out. You want to say hi, Boomer? that on. I think that did exactly what we were wanting it to do. It took away all the paper. It even took away some of the residual adhesive on the surface. So all we've got to do is be a little bit patient, identify the other areas of paper. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not as concerned about getting off every little speck of the old adhesive. I think we're going to be okay there. So I think we're just going to go ahead and keep applying this same idea to all the other little areas where there's still some of that paper backing, and we'll go from there. But that was just to illustrate the point. It did what we wanted it to do, so we're going to come back and we'll resume the video once we've finished all the sanding. There's no point in showing it in more detail than that. Back it a little bit. Well, I had this wonderful off-the-cuff speech only to realize that I hadn't hit the record button on the camera. I hate having to deal with my phone as a camera. It takes a good enough picture, but it's a pain when I don't set the controls just right. So I'm going to try to redo what I just did but didn't record, and it really sounded good too. That's the sad part. What I did find among some questions, very similar topic or situations as mine, the response was, if the existing leftover adhesive is not water soluble and you use a modified Thinset, you should be okay. So the easiest way to test that is I took a damp rag and I sopped it up and I wiped down, assuming that you can't even see that, I sopped down a piece of the existing Thinset, this little blob right here, and it doesn't phase it. It temporarily darkens it, but it doesn't make it move, it doesn't dissolve it, it doesn't erode, it doesn't do anything to it. So that tells me, and now that, I'll be honest, that may not be a scientifically accurate test. The rest of you may look at that and say, yikes, he's nuts, he didn't test that properly. And that may well be. But I think it follows the logic that was being conveyed in that one discussion I saw. That's what I'm going to do. So I don't see any benefit in going to the extra labor effort of taking the grinder and grinding this entire area down. That will take another whole day at minimum. And I'm not going to go out and rent a full surface floor grinder just to do that either. It would make a hideous mess, and I just don't think I have to, frankly. Beyond that, what we're going to do now is we're going to take the grinder and we're going to go back over this area in here for any possible remaining parts of the old floor that had a little bit of that paper backing that didn't quite come up. The shop vac with the grinder worked great. That 80 grit disc worked like a charm. It knocked out that old paper with, all I had to do was get used to the angle that you needed to put to get it on there and start removing the material that you needed. And by the way, that little Warrior angle grinder for free, a freebie from Harbor Freight, I realize it's not the fanciest. It's not any high dollar 5-star monster that you're going to see rated in any super duper tool review, but it's free, it worked, and it did the job I needed for it to do. And then we are going to go through a very diligent, probably 2-phase round of vacuuming and vacuuming and vacuuming some more to get the dust off. This created a lot of dust. Not as much as I thought, but still it created a lot of dust. And the one thing you do not want to do is put down Thinset that bonds to dust, because that's like not bonding to anything. That would be a fail, no question about it. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. We're going to let this settle a little bit more, and we'll do another round of sanding off camera. Won't film that because you've already seen essentially what we're doing there. And then when we go back, hopefully I can give you a grand final tour of what the floor looks like, and then we'll be moving on to actually laying out our tile. And that's a whole project unto itself. I've been trying to keep you all a timeline as I've been working on this. It's about 3:30, 3:40 right now. I'm not sure the exact time. We did take a couple of hour break. We got a little tired right around lunchtime, stopped, got something to drink, made the trip to Lowe's to get a new shop vac, got the angle grinder set up with the sanding discs, and just took a breather, got back at it. So it's not been continuous. So yeah, we're a little bit behind where we expected. We hope to be a little bit farther along in the layout and maybe even applying tile today. We may still get there, don't know. I don't want to push it because I don't want to mess it up. Sometimes if you rush, you mess things up. So that's all for now. The next phase that you'll see hopefully will be a finished sanding area, finished, sanded and dusted, and then we'll be moving on to layout. See you shortly.